it doesn't matter what. It's always shit for some reason. I have no idea what's up with that, but whatever. Is there a way that I could call in on the regular? Yeah. Is there a way I can...
Good evening, everyone. I am your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of This is Revolution podcast. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Before we start, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're alerted whenever we go live. We're constantly doing cross streams with other channels and adding new shows. Just last night, we did another episode of our leftist gaming show, Gaming Materialists, with Jean Bajlan and C. Derek Varn of Varn Vlog. Also, if you would like to further support the channel, for our patrons, we have the exclusive Campaign Room, where we have more zany, uncensored fun, usually watching some weird movies that would get the normal show demonetized, like we did this past Saturday. Also, you'll be able to join us for our movie nights, which we're going to be doing this Friday. Yes, tomorrow we're going to have movie night. We're going to watch the Oh So Bad It's Wonderful 5i9. So I'm really excited for that, because you all know
Surprise how many people love the crack.
that is going down tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. And unlike usual movie nights, we watch the movie, we have a conversation. Oh, no. We're going to have to stop in the middle and discuss the nonsense, the tomfoolery that is on my night. That being said, I did not think that my homie, my co-host, my dog was going to join us for movie night. He assured me that he actually wants to watch this movie that takes place in his home, New York City. So please welcome the man of the Mau Mau Hour. He is the Pascal Robert.
Peace and greetings to the chat. Peace and greetings to the audience. Peace and greetings, Jason Miles. Looking forward to the movie night. Also, 1 week away from the Mau Mau Hour for this month, the month of July, which will be next Wednesday. A couple of shout outs I'd like to make. Happy birthday to our moderator du jour, M. Toussaint.
M. Toussaint. I was going to give you a birthday shout. Pascal beat me to it. Happy birthday to M. Toussaint. Also to my very good friend you share a birthday with, M. Toussaint, Ryan tonight. So shout out to M. Toussaint.
Okay. Do you know who else shares my birthday?
Sorry?
I share a birthday with James Clyburn.
Oh,
but
my
also
God.
Corey Bush. We're balancing it out there.
And he's back. He's everyone's favorite middle manager of the deep state. He's done with Death Star duties for the week. He had a great appearance on Diet Soap with Doug Lane. You guys were raving about it. I saw someone leave a comment that said, Kuba just gave a college level lecture. Please welcome Deep State Kuba.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I gotta say, it's much more rewarding to do the podcast than try to give a college lecture to a bunch of clone stormtroopers, right? Like, talking about, like, unmotivated. It's kind of like, will this be on the test? Do the Sith care about the test?
Apparently, if you guys haven't seen it, I shouldn't say apparently, if you guys haven't seen it, if you want to know anything about the history of Japan and Shinzo Abe, please watch that episode with Kuba and Doug Lane. Before we get
It was so detailed. I thought they were going to get into like how to cut slices of sushi. I was like, good God.
well, you know, Kuba has to give you context upon context.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, the earlier the departure from the history that we're familiar with, the more there is to fill in. And people don't realize how much difference there is in Japan, how the very particular history continues to pattern the politics and social relations there. You can't just learn about it by watching enough anime, although it helps.
I was watching a wrestling documentary last night, and it was where the great Japanese wrestler, who I can't remember his name, and a bunch of American wrestlers went to North Korea in '95 and fought a match there. And the whole documentary, they played sinister music because they were in communist Korea. It was pretty horrible.
I mean, North Korea is it's a scary place.
You've spent some time there away from the Death Star. Is that where you go, Death Star holidays?
No, that's actually where they threaten to send us if we don't make quota. It's like, oh shit.
They're like, oh no, Pyongyang, here you come.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started with the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Kim Jong-un is bad enough, but his like sister, Darth Kim. You don't want to get on her bad side.
Well, before we get started with our normal show, I came across a news article that actually kind of messed me up. Where I live on Wood Street, as I've often talked about on this show, there's a very large homeless encampment that was directly across the street from where I live. And that homeless encampment is under threat of being swept and everyone being displaced. And one of the people that listens to the show, Armando, shout out to Armando, has hit me up personally and told me that he actually works with people in the encampment. I hit him up late last night, and he was able to organize a lot of the main organizers in the encampment that were able to get this last-minute injunction from a federal judge, and even the lawyer that actually is helping save the encampment. So please welcome Leah, Bridget. Oh, there she goes. And Lee J. Harper of the Wood Street Posse. Now, there's you heard me name some names because we had to do this so last minute. They're going to be disembodied voices, but everybody is here. You guys can all hear me, right? Bridget, Leah?
Yes. Yep.
So, real quick, I talk about Wood Street a lot because I spent 6-7 years there. I remember when there was no encampment, and then there was a very large encampment. And when I left, it got really, really big. And there was always talk about Caltrans wanting to do something about it, but they never really did anything about it. What is making Caltrans want to move so quickly now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Perfect. Let's do this right now. So I'm J. Harper. And really, Caltrans has wanted us out of there, like you said. And so the most recent thing that happened is someone thought that they could help us stay longer by lighting a fire, igniting 3 cars on fire, which got out of control. His stupid ass mind, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. That's been the big concern from. So I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. There was a huge fire a few months back, and it took a couple hours to put out, and that one pissed the mayor off. Okay, then we had a fire maybe a month or so later, and that's when Charlie Brown died. Someone died in their trailer on Wood Street because I guess the smoke and inhalation had like made him out while he was sleeping, so he never got up or was woke up. So that one brought the governor to Wood Street. Gavin Newsom came to Wood Street and got out of his car and walked around and was like, "Do you guys feel responsible for this man's death?"
Wow.
That's right. And so so that fire, and then I won't say any names, but he was one of our volunteer firemen. Hella dumb. The thing is that so yeah, that fire a few days ago or a week ago, they were like, "Oh, it's over." They put a notice on every single thing that had wheels on it on Wood Street, like, "Get the hell out. We're not even playing with you guys anymore. If you're not getting out, we're gonna bulldoze your shit down." And they're serious about it. They've already taken a lot of folks' vehicles. They just went around and whichever ones they thought were abandoned, they put A's or S meant stolen, and they got the abandons out of there hella fast. Well, yeah, those are some of our vehicles that we've paid for, but they left the stolen ones there for a little bit longer, so messed up. They were smashing people's houses and all kinds of shit. But excuse me, I'm sorry.
You can definitely say shit here. It's totally fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, they were fucked up. But so yeah, so the thing is that because they are not looking at them as arson fires, which probably 85% of them are, they are getting blamed on us as a whole as encampment fires, because we're just, space cadet addicts that, with our meth labs or whatever the fuck they think they are, that set them on fire, Not that there's people that actually get mad and go around and are lighting people's shit on fire, because that's their only way. They don't know how to express their feelings. So they do shit like that. And even we've had some weird, like, who the fuck is this dude that just lit a fire behind the damn pillar? And we go over and I'm like, dude, this is why we got, like, oh, my cigarette got hand. What the fuck? A cigarette made that much smoke just now, dude? Like, totally. We think.
Well, are they trying to? So let me
yeah.
ask this question to all of you guys. So are the fires the big reason why Gavin Newsom feels the need to get involved? Leah and Bridget. Can you guys hear me, Leah and Bridget?
If you want to take this one.
I think Leah just got disconnected.
Oh, shoot. Well, I can say that, certainly the fires are a huge, major concern. I think also, Wood Street is the largest, and it's a very, visible sign of the housing crisis. And so folks in power have an interest in it going away, right? Lejay, do you have more to add to that?
Let me turn it back on. Do you want to add to that, Leah or Lejay?
I mean, I thought I just covered. I said what. But I'm sorry. No, I'm good.
No. I'll give you my take. My take is that we've talked about this on the show quite a bit. Is that there's new tough on crime policies that are coming down. especially in more urban areas where homelessness is becoming more and more. It's no longer kind of hidden in the corners. It's a little bit of everywhere. And even though Wall Street is in an area of Oakland known as the lower bottoms, it's kind of the bottom of this area of West Oakland. It's not in a very common area. Nonetheless, homelessness is very visible everywhere, and people don't like homelessness because it's something that's hard to deal with, right? Like, you feel helpless, you want to help. More often than not, you want to help, and
You're
people look
jealous
at public.
because they get to sit on their ass all day, and you're going to work and paying bills.
I was hoping they didn't say that. but seriously, what we're seeing, unlike the 80s and 90s, where we had gangs and gang violence and drug violence as the cause du jour to have things like the 94 crime bill, what we're going to see is homelessness and petty property crime, break-ins, theft of laptops. That is the crisis, if you will, in major metropolitan areas, coupled with the fact that you're seeing so many people still getting displaced through COVID that the unhoused population is no longer just for major metropolitan areas. We're starting to see it really take over suburban enclaves where you never saw this stuff before.
And the face of homelessness has changed. It's not the Vietnam vet anymore. It's, 18 to 50-year-old people, I'm sorry. I have a bad problem with cutting people off. Sorry.
No.
Mute my mic again.
No. I mean, look, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to let the people know what's going on, because ultimately what's happening is Caltrans, and maybe Bridget can help give us some clarity here. Caltrans, who owns a lot of this property, wanted to just kick everybody out and do a huge sweep. And Bridget, you were able to get this injunction?
Well, so just to clarify, the folks who live there who got it,
Okay.
I'm not officially representing anyone. They organized a meeting. They got a ton of declarations written. They got a really great TRO drafted, and I just kind of helped with the logistics of really the residents coming together, and they did it all, and they're still doing it all. Just incredible advocacy.
So how was the because I've read that the federal judge gave you guys until Friday. So what's going on with Friday?
Mm-hmm. So on Spring, it's going to be over Zoom at 10 a.m. and the public is welcome to view it. You can go to the website of the Northern District of California and look at William Orrick, and you'll be able to see the link to his Zoom court. So at that hearing, the judge will decide whether or not in place while he makes a decision about whether or not to grant, what could be a motion preventing the folks who are defendants from doing evictions and sweeps and cleaning. So, what's at stake, and we know that Caltrans intends to immediately lift it on Friday. They've already posted new notices saying that they're going to come back on Monday. At stake here, and we're gonna do what we can.
Is there anything that us, the viewing audience, can do to help you guys out?
Operation Human Shield.
Yeah. Depending on how this hearing goes, folks are going to need a lot. I think, before the hearing tomorrow, if there's pressure that you do social media or whatever on the governor and the county, the city kind of want to say, hey, I support the residents of Wood Street and their efforts to maintain, and your presence at that Zoom court hearing shows that you care. Jay, do you have more thoughts?
Yeah, because Because, I mean, let's put this in perspective, okay?
Mhm.
There's 200, maybe even 300 folks back there, camps, sites, whatever, beings. And when they kick us all out of our nice little area we've created back there, then
Mhm.
so what happens is we flood the streets. And so we'll be in front of people's houses. We're trying to kind of be out of our way, and have our little,
Yeah.
if you can see, there's no businesses even down there. There are businesses that don't have walking customers.
Well,
So,
I mean,
I mean,
you don't remember me, but I did live across the street from there in a business.
where?
Soundwave.
Okay, well, that's the only, I know, poor Soundwave. They
That's
didn't
the only
really-
business. Yeah, that's the only business.
But we gotta deal with them crazy parties sometimes, So I mean,
That
it's a
hey,
win-win,
DJ, that is off-air talk. That is
Right.
off-air talk. You are having
Right.
off-air talk on air.
Dude be coming out with his weird ass horse he be riding, I don't know, vehicle. Anywho, you know what I'm saying?
Can't talk about all the weird stuff on Wood Street. That's off.
Right. Okay, I'm not gonna air anybody's laundry. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, even when I was in Berkeley and sleeping on the streets, and I would literally sleep on the sidewalk every night, we wouldn't sleep in front of houses. We would sleep in front of churches or businesses or parking lots or whatever, because we do have some respect and we do have some, understanding. We are people too. We're humans. We are nurses, doctors, teachers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
and so we understand. We hate the people that shit on the sidewalk too. You know what I mean? Like, we hate that. We hate the dumping and the garbage. Like, if they talk to us or even listen to us, we're asking for help, how to, group together our problem people and stuff. Because a lot of us just want to be happy. Fuck, we lost our jobs, our families, and everything, and we're just trying to grasp a little piece of something to keep going. Like I used to work with young women as an activist, as an advocate, a policy maker. My bill got signed by Schwarzenegger. You know what I'm saying? But folks would never know that if they never take a chance and come and say, hi, how are you? I'm Lachey. But I mean, we are having a fundraiser on the 30th down there, right across from Raymondi Park. And how folks can help is just, you know what I'm saying? Talk to your friends or whatever, or, you know how women can tell you about a cool ass store. Well, tell them about these cool ass people on Wood Street that, you know what I'm saying? They just want to keep their little place. They want to be artists and we didn't let people have parties on our shit. You know what I'm saying? Some of them
I heard about those.
Right. We had a rave and then we had a fucking outrage the next day. But
it was like motorcycle stunts and stuff.
So we were all right. We were okay with that.
I have the GoFundMe. I'm gonna post the GoFundMe on the show, and we're gonna talk about the 30th on the show. I don't know if I'll be able to get down there, but I'll do my best to try to get as many people down there as possible.
So what we're doing on the 30th, though, is we're raising money because we're about to ride to LA on our bicycles, dude, to raise awareness. You could come ride with us too.
I gotta cross that border. I live in Mexico now. I'm.
Oh, for real? They said you was in West Oakland. Oh, they be lying stuff.
I was in West Oakland until last year. I left last year.
All right.
I've only been here for a little bit. But thank you guys for hanging out with us. Lee, are you still there? I think we ended up losing Leah. Leah was in the backwoods of South Dakota. I'm gonna post the link to the GoFundMe. We have each other's numbers now. We're gonna stay in contact. And
definitely please put a good word out for us because we are the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. Damn, we live next to the shit treatment plant. Come on, dude. Let us live there.
Again,
you know what I'm saying?
I was right there. So I'm knowing.
I know, it's crazy.
Well, thank you, Lee J. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you
so much for coming on and appreciate it.
Cool.
Peace, you guys.
Bye.
So I am going to send this link to M. Toussaint so she can put it out on the chat, and we'll definitely have it on the show notes for this show, and definitely when it goes audio only, we'll have it then. Sorry, guys, that the audio wasn't great, but thank you very much, Armando, for hooking this all up. These ladies came on extremely last minute. They're definitely behind the 8 ball because this story just hit, I think, 2 days ago, or no, maybe yesterday it hit, and then they have till tomorrow to see what Caltrans is going to be able to do as far as sweeping the entire encampment. And like I said, it's a few hundred people. There were some pretty decent attempts to really make some permanent kind of little housing there. I don't know how to, what even word I would use. Maybe you guys are familiar with tiny houses, but they're talking about getting rid of even those and just wiping everybody out. And when I read what Caltrans said the solution was, they said that Oakland has $4.5 million for community cabins.
Whatever
Sounds
that
like
is.
shacks.
Yes, Pascal, correct. Tough sheds. Community cabins.
They're gonna put people in shacks.
And they only have room for 100. And there's well over 200 people.
And I think that what Lee J was saying about actually meeting people who are on Wood Street, that's a very important point, because there's such an instinctive, especially sort of with PMC, upper middle class people, dehumanization of the unhoused, and it also, the fact that there's no contact with certain other parts of the community, that it is geographically isolated, and then also isolated by the fact of living out of regular housing. It becomes very easy to mobilize fear and hostility against homeless people. It's, if you're kind of a well-behaved, rule-following citizen, taxpayer, then the idea that some people are breaking those rules, just in order to survive, but that alone makes them frightening. And I think that on a human level, once you get to understand how people got to be there, it's much easier to foster solidarity. But as long as different social groups, especially the people on the bottoms, stay isolated, then it becomes easier and easier to turn them into objects or problems to be managed, dealt with, swept away, rather than people who experience pain and who are going to suffer as a result of these forced removals.
No doubt. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that it was really important. I mean, one of the things that I'm most proud of what we do on this show, and that's largely because of Jason's prior experience, is sound the alarm of the crisis of the unhoused and of the people who are facing housing shortages and talking about housing crises, because it's one of the frontline examples of how the crisis of capitalism really destabilizes communities throughout the country, and how the fast and quick silver bullet solutions that we hear through our market-driven economy and media oftentimes don't meet the mark in terms of addressing the needs of these communities at all, because they're not really rooted in addressing the problems.
Yeah, there's a shortage of community, full stop, in the United States and in a lot of Western countries, because you might have a family that you're close with or you're not. But apart from that, people meet in online spaces where weird dynamics can take over, or they meet in workplaces where you've got practical, economic reasons to be there. It's not the basis of a community. It's deliberately transactional. And unions are a way of trying to convert that economic space into something like a community, but whenever possible, of course, they're snuffed out in their infancy.
No doubt.
Well, on that note, I know we want to get into our news stories this week because we definitely went too long last week, and I'll take the blame for that. Pascal, you wanted to talk about Bernie Sanders and Joe Brandon, as M. Toussaint calls him.
Well, actually, I did. As many of you know, currently with the military conflict that the United States is suffering with Ukraine, because of the increase in oil prices due to the fact that our major geostrategic competitor, being Russia, is a larger exporter of oil, oil prices throughout the country have been on the rise. One of the consequences of that, in order to offset the increase of those costs, is that Joe Biden has been asking friends and somewhat not so friends to increase oil production and has been going around kind of like on a tour, particularly in the Middle East as of last week, to try to get those countries in the Gulf states to increase their oil production to deleverage or kind of diminish the pressure on the overall oil markets. One of the consequences of him having to go to Saudi Arabia is that he had to meet the then president of that country, Mohammed bin Salam, or MBS as he is known, who, in the eyes of many in the West, is a rather irreputable individual because of his role in the assassination of Washington Post journalist Khashoggi, who was disemboweled inside the embassy of Saudi Arabia in their home state. No, what actually was it in the Emirates? Where was he actually disemboweled?
In Istanbul,
In
at the
Istanbul,
Saudi
right?
consulate in Istanbul.
In Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and many people believe that because he was being criticized by criticizing the MBS administration, that MBS had a direct role in his unfortunate disembowelment. Now, Joe Biden on the campaign trail, while he was running for president, stated that Saudi Arabia was a country that was persona non grata, and that they were a country that was not worthy of engaging in, and that their actions in with the Muhammad with the Washington Post journalists were beyond repute. Some of their actions vis-a-vis Yemen were questionable as well, even though the United States had been arming their military expeditions in Yemen for many years. So what has happened is that America's most dependable oil producing ally in the Gulf, which has been the Saudi royal family, has been kind of on the outs, uh, somewhat, with the U.S. And what
It's
I
more like
found
a timeout.
more like a timeout than on the
Yeah,
out.
like send the kid to the corner, let them think about what they're done. And it's like, MBS, are you ready to come out now?
Well, that's the thing, because what the reports are saying is that Joe Biden is arguing that when he met with MBS and had their fist bump de jour, that he was somewhat hard on him and made it clear that he made it clear to MBS that she challenged his narrative about what happened with Khashoggi and that he was questioning the role in the assassination of the journalist. What I found fascinating is that Bernie Sanders, who seems to have taken the position during the Biden administration as the chief apologizer for Biden in most of his normal time during his presidency, has come out now and pretty much directly said Joe Biden should not have met with Mohammed bin Salam. I was shocked. He said Sanders comes out point blank and said Biden shouldn't have visited Saudi Arabia. As a matter of fact, uh, Sanders is saying that the United States should be putting pressure on these countries through other means. For example, having tax hikes go against oil producing companies in other ways to find ways to try to get them to surrender to the United States demand about oil production. And what I found really fascinating is that why is it that Bernie Sanders found this to be a bridge too far in terms of it causing him to come out and somewhat kind of condemn Joe Biden publicly? in terms of him handling this event, when we know that the United States needs to have the Saudi royal family increase the oil production to discount for the loss of Russian oil. We also know that the current global climate change fracas with the heat issues is going to require participation from oil producing countries as well in terms of trying to find a way to counteract global warming. So the question becomes, what is in Sanders' mind that's making him so willing to publicly come out and chastise Joe Biden on this issue? And that's something I'd like to ask the crew.
I think that in a lot of ways, Saudi Arabia, unlike other American allies, really combines almost all of the most dangerous elements that are leading the world into crisis. One, there's the war in Yemen and regional destabilization. There's the anti-Iranian sort of warmongering that has been a mainstay of Gulf foreign policy. There's the lack of human rights or rule of law within Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's an even more arbitrary and brutal system than exists in the United States, for instance, where at least there is some recourse available to some people under some conditions, while in Saudi Arabia, if MBS wants you dead, he sent a hit team shows up. It's also deeply implicated in climate change, like you said, and in the power of big oil, not just in the Middle East, but it intrudes in the economic lives of every country in the world. The Saudis also are adept at using dark money and political patronage in Washington, to think tanks, to lobbyists, to former politicians, as a means of steering policy towards the interests of Saudi Arabia and away from what someone like Bernie Sanders would consider to be the interests of American workers or America as a state. And if there's rollback to business as usual with Saudi Arabia, then there's really no hope of making any kind of course correction to U.S. foreign policy. It's just going to be the same from here on out as it has been before. And that might be the reason why, like, this is the last best hill available before total capitulation.
Toussaint, do you have anything to add?
I like seeing Bernie angry. It's good. We need that. It's good to see old boy's got some fight still left in him, and he's not doing the my friend Joe Biden thing.
Bernie Sanders angry sounds like a coronary.
Oh.
So maybe you need him to tamp down the anger just a tad if you are serious about him as a political figure.
Just a tad. Only a tad.
Just a tad.
Yeah.
Do you really need him busting a blood vessel?
I don't.
I mean, didn't he have a heart attack when he was on the campaign trail in 2020?
I mean, I feel like it's been building up for him, though.
The heart attack or the bad?
No, the kicking Joe Brandon while he's down with COVID.
Oh.
He's just fed up with so many things.
What if this is just his "I told you so" moment, and he's just kind of sitting there like, we could have been this. Like, he's one of those memes. Is he doing that?
I think he sees it as also being further entrenched with oil. So I think he has an urgent and immediate concern about climate change. And this is going in the wrong direction.
Well, on that note, if you guys have anything you'd like to add, please leave your questions or comments in the comments. Pascal reads them daily. Toussaint will respond to you. I will not. Kuba will respond to you as well. Kuba responds. Jean Bajlan will respond. But right now, M. Toussaint has taken on the role as the official responder of all comments.
I mean, I like how you let me know what I've taken on in the middle of a show while we're live.
Yeah,
Well,
you've been voluntold.
Yes, that's how I got the wrench. That's how I got to be the mod. Well, I just want to say we have the link up in the chat for the GoFundMe for the Wood Street Commons. We'll also put it in the description. And yeah.
Yes, I'm actually pretty excited. Last time we were able to help Perry's Elementary School get all the supplies that they needed. So hopefully this time we can help Wood Street stave off a sweep, because I know people that work in services, and right now last I heard is they're dealing with literally the sweeping of People's Park, which Kuba knows as being a Cal student. So most of the
Define
residents of
sweep.
People's Park are in a hotel.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I remember People's Park was it's where a lot of unhoused people congregate and live in the Berkeley area, and where it's located, sort of between the university and Telegraph Avenue, which is now just a big gentrifying commercial space. There was a lot of tension. I remember people referring to People's Park as like the best argument against the people. And it's a challenge of this is what you get when you don't look after housing as a basic right and as a collective problem, but make everybody fend for themselves under conditions of severe atomization and kind of lack of resources available at the bottom, while more and more get monopolized at the top. In the 2008 financial crisis, home ownership was never universal in the U.S., but we began to shift away from residents owning homes to hedge funds being landlords.
Financial services industry.
And the logical conclusion of that trend is, unless you're wealthy enough to be a landlord yourself, there's going to be somebody determining where you can live and under what conditions.
That's where we're headed. That being said, Kuba, you have some financial news for us.
Well, we had spoke about Sri Lanka on another Sublation show.
Are you bringing Doug Lane in to this channel?
I'm not.
Are you trying to Suge Knight me right now?
I'm not going to tap him in.
To you.
The like that's your serious voice. This is shaping up well.
We don't want the owner of the channel all up on the streams.
Nobody wants to see that.
Come to TIR.
But and Sri Lanka right now is in an extraordinary situation. I'm sure that some of you have seen the pictures of crowds of protesters occupying the, I believe it's the president's residence or the prime minister's. One of them got taken over. The other one got burned. The leadership not only was forced to resign, but many of them have left and fled into exile. And now it's unclear what Sri Lanka can do. It's economic freefall. The value of the currency is plunging. The main drivers of export revenue or foreign revenue, tourism and the tea industry both have been just decimated by tourism, by COVID and the travel restrictions that have gone along with it. The tea industry by a move ending the import of herbicides, non-organic herbicides, and fertilizers, which was part of a bigger program to convert Sri Lanka to organic agriculture. And the one thing that I learned recently was the currency crisis and the payments crisis. Sri Lanka has a significant amount of foreign debt, so you need foreign currency, to pay off your creditors, to buy imports, which if your agricultural sector has collapsed because of the ban on herbicides and pesticides and fertilizers, then you're going to need to import food as well, and no one will accept your currency. You need foreign exchange for that, and Sri Lanka doesn't have any. You need it for oil as well. As Pascal pointed out, oil prices have gone up and up. Supply is difficult to get. Sri Lanka is not an energy producer, so the pressures on its economy are considerable, and the interim administration has admitted that there'll be shortages of essential goods through to the end of 2023. One recent fact that I learned was that the ban on fertilizers, which a lot of conservatives present as, look, the Greens are crazy and this is where environmentalism gets you, that was originally going to be a 10-year process to convert from inorganic to organic agriculture, or rather conventional to organic agriculture. But since those were imported inputs, fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide, they came out of the foreign currency exchange reserves of Sri Lanka. So the ban was moved up by 9 years in order to cut imports and reduce exposure to foreign currency liabilities that way. Then it backfires spectacularly, as without those inputs, domestic production plunges. I believe 50% of the tea harvest was lost. So there's a significant amount of mismanagement in the Sri Lankan story, but with the deepening of globalization and the reliance of more and more countries that at a certain point were self-sufficient, at least in essentials, the reliance of more and more countries on international markets for foreign currency that they need to import essentials, it's unlikely that this will stop with Sri Lanka. Already there have been problems in Nepal, Lebanon, Kenya, I believe, had protests as well. And those, on top of all of the instability and crisis that we've been covering elsewhere in the world, it also means that if you do have a leftist government, for instance, the new governments of Peru and Colombia, where they elected leftist leaders, these conditions severely constrain the economic sovereignty and the space for policymaking available to those leaders. They need to keep access to foreign markets. They might need to go hat in hand to the IMF at a certain point. So even when crises create opportunities for leftist political breakthrough, they may also undermine the conditions for those leftist governments to operationalize any kind of program, because they're still embedded in this exchange system that privileges the US dollar and other forms of hard currency and leaves them vulnerable to getting cut off from essential imports. This is another reason as well why the international response to anti-Russian sanctions has been so lukewarm. Western countries, NATO countries, understand the project, understand the purpose, at least from the perspective of a kind of conservative real transatlantic. I was going to say realpolitik, but it's more of a whatever you want to call the demonic combination of humanitarian imperialism and neoconservatism. But for a lot of developing countries, the essential problems of feeding, maintaining, housing, clothing, looking after their people and their basic productive economy, you need the access to as broad a supply of essential imports as possible. Russia is a major producer of a number of industrial chemicals, including fertilizers, that are difficult to replace, and alternatives may be much more expensive if they come from Western countries, or their new relationships that you have to negotiate at the exact moment where everybody needs these inputs. So expect there to be more pressure on developing countries and potentially another wave of 90s style structural adjustment as foreign exchange crises lead to currency crises, and the IMF becomes a kind of credit line of last reserve for.
Well, I mean, this is really kind of where the absurd becomes the ridiculous, becomes the obscene. Because if in the wake of the 50-plus year counter-revolution that we've seen, in which these structural adjustment programs have wreaked such havoc on the global South, in response to the already impending clutches of these financial services institutions being interwoven in these global South economies, and they're being unable to meet their debt servicing requirements, that the next response is to double down on debt restructuring and IMF neoliberalism, then I mean, people burn shit down or slit your throat. Pretty much that's what it comes down to. Because then the transparent lack of absolute any sense of humanity that any of these institutions have becomes so clear that at that point it's like, what are your options here?
Yeah, and that was one of the self-conscious goals of Thatcherite, Reaganite, and then Clintonite globalization and neoliberalism. Create economic conditions which break down the political autonomy of governments and of states. So it doesn't matter who's in charge of any particular country, because economic structures will force them to cooperate with your overall global agenda.
Say it again for the people in the back.
And it wasn't even a secret. You just had to sort of translate back from the idea that, hey, look, globalization is great because it weakens governments and it's going to connect us all in ways where war is going to be unthinkable because we're going to be interdependent. And that interdependence, it's a little like the Davos ad that 30 years from now, you won't own anything, but you'll be happy, right? That we have a plan, but trust us, it's going to be good for you.
I mean,
it's
we're doing that
great
right now, even on the small scale with things like music. We don't own music anymore. We rent it.
Yes. And it's so part of the neoliberal globalization agenda was these straitjackets, whether on states and on economic policymaking, whether they take the form of sovereign debt obligations or international trade agreements. But within states, within markets, looking at the relationship between powerful corporate interests and consumers, the idea is to change every asset, right? Everything that you can buy, every consumable, into a subscription service that just becomes a rent. And a lot of the internal reform package in the United States, and I think Kansas under Governor Brownback was, if I'm not confusing him with the senator.
It's a horrible.
But yes, it is a terrible name.
How many people love the crack?
You knew it was coming.
It all had to do with taking services or infrastructure that was part of the commons, turning it into a toll booth, turning it into a rent center for investors that would help fund operations for a few years, but then really take over the control over how people receive services, sometimes essential services, or how public property is managed, maintained, and eventually abolished.
I mean, the whole thing is scary. I want to actually talk a little bit about that as we go into the champagne room, about this whole new wave of people, about there being an aftermarket for Twitter and Instagram handles. Did you read that article in Business Insider, Kuba?
No, but of course there is.
Article in Business Insider?
No, that there's a market for.
With you. When Kuba and I are together, we are the best mixed comedy team since Pryor and Wilder.
Yeah. I remember, I think that our like buddy comedy act, when we first met up, really delighted the Italian cafe guy. You remember?
You have to admit the Jason Kuba buddy comedy thing is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's on par with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys.
Which one am I? Oh,
you
Dane
are
Cook.
Martin Lawrence. Dane Cook. Did you hear that Dave Chapelle story? Let's leave on this happy note. Pascal, did I send you that clip about Dave Chapelle ending Dane Cook's career?
No.
Apparently, at the Comedy Store, you can just show up when you're a big time comedian. You show up.
Oh, I saw that clip. You did see that clip.
Yeah. And you work on material, right? Did you watch it, Toussaint?
I heard about it.
Okay. You work on material, and I've been there. I don't know if Kuba's been there. If you've been there, it's a no cell phone thing, and anybody can step up. Howie Mandel came up and worked on 10 minutes of stuff. You have to see how your jokes are hitting. With comedians, just because people laugh at what you say, that may not be the laugh you want, right? So you're working out this stuff. So Dave Chapelle is notorious for showing up at these places and doing hours upon hours of comedy kind of unannounced. So I guess back in the day when Dane Cook was hot, Dave Chapelle showed up and they told him, like, hey, this is Dane's night. You can do a tight 10, but it's Dane's night. And they're like, oh shit, Dave Chapelle. Is he gonna what is he gonna do? What is he gonna do? And I have to say, I've done similar things to this in music. It definitely happens in music. Dave Chapelle came up, he did a tight 10. And when he was done, he said, I never do this, but I'm going to be out front smoking a cigarette. And if you guys want to hang out with me and take some pictures, ask me some questions, you're more than welcome. See you later. And he walks out, and the entire crowd goes with him. And he looks at the dude and goes, it's Dane's night.
Damn.
Rough.
That's the meanest shit I've ever.
I can see Chappelle doing that shit.
Yep.
I mean, like, in a lot of ways, if he had done that to Patton Oswalt or something.
Oh, they're friends.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he wouldn't. He did that to Dane Cook because Dane Cook deserves it, right?
Nice. Like that man was filling stadiums just a short while ago. So was Ja Rule.
Now,
So
that, I mean, the sold out Dane Cook Stadium, that is the strongest argument against the people.
Cooper, you're joining us for the champagne room.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, let's all head to the champagne room. I know it's late. We have movie night tomorrow, which again I'm very excited for. If you guys haven't become patrons already, just you know what? Just do it for movie night. Do it for tomorrow. August is going to be good too, but do it for tomorrow because we're adding an extra movie night in August. But even then, do it for tomorrow because I can't wait. Because Pascal Robert, so another thing that goes on in the champagne room, I can play music. It's copywritten because we kind of understand the show's not going to be able to get monetized. And Pascal gave the most astute, sobering analysis of Camp Low lyrics ever. He should write for The Source because I still don't know what they're saying, but he explained it in such a way with such compassion for the gibberish that I'm excited for what we're about to do in the champagne room because again, I'll be playing more copyrighted music.
What's the movie?
Oh, Kuba, it's my new favorite film.
I'm asking rhetorically so you can inform the audience.
So tomorrow night we'll be watching the hip hop classic, the 1992 hip hop classic, starring a bunch of black people you might have seen in other movies, but you don't quite know their name, and MC Light, called Fly By Night, where a man with a very good job and benefits decides to leave his family to try out for a rap group that has rape songs. As you know, that makes sense.
I mean, technically, isn't that every rap group?
Ouch. PM Dawn begs to disagree.
PM Dawn, you gonna call that a rap group?
That's what KRS-One said. Jesus. Tough crowd. Arguing over PM Dawn.
I want this to be such a big deal. I told Left Reckoning dudes and I told Ben Burgess people, if those patrons want to watch the movie with us, because I want everyone to understand why you should never love the crack and why you should never leave your family and a very good job to audition for a rap group that plays in front of 5 people. That doesn't happen in the real world.
I mean, if they make you audition,
and who the fuck auditions for a rap
it should be better than 5 people in the crowd. That's what I'm saying.
Auditions for a rap group
in an abandoned building.
In an abandoned dope house.
And sit down on the furniture you found in the abandoned building for the audition. Sorry. Y'all got bed bugs for sure.
And please, hopefully this is another plea for you guys to want to be part of this. They, of course, the rapper has to meet a white woman because he leaves his black family for the white woman because that's in the manual says so.
That can't be cliche enough.
It's so Pascal, but he's doing the rape song, which she goes, yeah.
She falls for him during the rape song.
Yeah. So he performs at her parents' house in Long Island.
For like a kid's birthday.
Birthday.
Yep.
And so all the gangstas are having coffee with her mom in the kitchen. And the mom looks over and she goes, this is how the scene starts. The mom looks over, she goes, I think your music is trash.
She had a tight French roll. Like she was really like upper crust lady looking down on that. Like
She just
your
looked
music is
over.
trash.
She just looked over at him, and she goes, "I think your music is trash."
And then she goes on in speech. She has a little speech, and it's like message the speech that she does. She reads the New York Times.
Dude, this movie is the only movie I've ever seen where a black dude around black dudes acts like he's hella smart, and when he gets around white people, he talks like Stephen Fetchit.
I didn't notice that. I'll need to catch that on the rewatch.
Oh, don't worry, we're gonna be stopping like we're breaking down film. Pause it.
Right. That's right. That's right.
When he tells a white girl, "How you be knowing all them big words?"
On that note,
On that
So that's
note,
gonna be tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. We're watching Fly By Night. We're breaking it down. If Pascal Robert can explain Camp Low lyrics, I'm still trying to figure out how Cooley High got you. Why? I don't know what that means.
it's a fantastic song.
In the champagne room, Pascal will explain why Cooley High got you. Why? So thank you guys very much. Happy birthday, Toussaint.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Happy birthday, James Clyburn.
Hey,
Who else is your birthday? Who do you share a birthday with as well?
Corey Bush.
Corey Bush.
Corey Bush. Happy
Yeah.
birthday, Corey Bush. Who would win in a fight between you and Corey Bush, Toussaint?
Corey Bush.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't
You
step
wouldn't
in the
get-
ring.
You wouldn't
I
even
don't
try.
even know
What
how
about-
to locate the octagon.
What about a three-way battle? You, Corey Bush, and James Clyburn.
Save that for the champagne room. You and your three ways. Your premature three ways.
You sound like you want to ride the cock carousel, Cooper.
Oh my God,
Anyway.
no. I asked my friend to listen to this podcast for months and he finally listens to that episode.
Oh, the cock
I was like-
carousel?
Yes, he listened
Ooh.
to the carousel episode.
Okay, well, we won't talk about the dick coaster cock carousel debate, but I did. If you check my Instagram, I think I found someone writing it and I posted it. So thank you guys very much. And Toussaint, what are we doing?
We are out.